Welcome to the 520 Democrat Podcast. I'm your host, Dilo, and today we have a very special episode lined up for you. Joining us is Raquel Mamani from Save Our Schools Arizona, an organization dedicated to advocating for quality public education. Raquel has been at the forefront of the movement fighting for our equitable funding and resources for our schools. We're excited to hear her insights and learn more about the crucial work she and her team are doing. Welcome, Raquel.
Thank you so much, Dilo. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much, 520 Democrat Podcast.
And the mission of your organization?
Sure thing, I sure can. So, Save Our Schools Arizona was born in 2017 when ESA vouchers were expanded universally. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that fights every day for equitable funding to our public schools across the state. And so that's what Save Our School does. And maybe people don't know about ESA vouchers, but we can maybe talk about that a little further down.
Raquel, supporters of ESA vouchers claim they provide families with more choice and opportunities. What are your thoughts on that perspective? And how do you think that we can balance choice with ensuring quality public education for all?
That is such a great question. When we talk about ESA vouchers, we have to understand the difference between an ESA voucher, which means an empowerment scholarship account, and a universal ESA voucher. And going even a little further back in the story, before they were called ESA vouchers, they were called vouchers, but they were found unconstitutional by the Arizona Supreme Court. And so that's when the name was changed to ESA, which means Empowerment Scholarship Account. It's sort of a misleading term for money that's charged onto a debit card to pay for private or religious schools. And initially, they were for those that qualified. So the original ESA program in Arizona, you had to qualify for it. You had to be a special education student, ward of the state, a DRF funded school, military families, and they continue to expand the ways that you could qualify. But unfortunately, a few years back, ESA vouchers went universal. That means that anybody can get a voucher now. You don't have to qualify. And so that is really devastating our budgets in Arizona. So after that voucher program went universal, along with the flat tax that was passed, Arizona is now $1.5 billion in the red. So it is bankrupting our state, unfortunately. And we all love choice. I'm a big proponent of choice, and people, that term school choice is so misunderstood. School choice is free. You don't need a voucher for school choice. School choice basically means that if a public school has capacity, they have to take you. You can choose to take your child anywhere that you can drive your child to. Now, here in Nogales, it's not that big of a deal, right? It's all very close, and people usually go to their neighborhood schools. But in bigger cities, like in Maricopa County, if you live in a poor area of town and you can drive your child to Scottsdale, your child can go to a public school. Unfortunately, school choice doesn't work like that. It's the school's choice. So what we have found is that even though somebody has a voucher, an ESA voucher, and they show up at a private religious school, they don't have to be accepted in that school. So the school picks and chooses who they let in. So it's sort of a misinformation campaign that has been quite successful to tell, they sold it on the backs of Latino, Black, brown families, saying ESAs will help you, go to the school of your choice. You can go to this private school, but there's a lot of fine print, unfortunately, that they don't tell us about. And that's what Save Our Schools Arizona does, is it tells people what's in the fine print. And we've been learning about this. I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to learn everything there is about ESA vouchers. I was enraged by the fact that they were using our Latino communities to entice people with these vouchers to say, leave your community school, leave your public school, they're terrible, and take a voucher. But what they don't tell you is private schools, the majority of them, they're over $18,000, $20,000, especially in Maricopa County. Each ESA voucher is about an average of $7,500. So who's going to pay the difference for that other part of the tuition that the ESA doesn't cover? No one. You're going to have to figure that out on yourself. And who can afford to already pay that difference? It's people that were already sending their kids to private school that could already afford it all along. So about 75% of families using these universal ESA vouchers have never stepped foot in a public school. They've been in private school all along. Their families have been affording it all along. And now we are subsidizing, it's welfare for the wealthy, and we're subsidizing private religious schools with zero accountability, zero transparency. And it gets a little worse. With that, we also have seen the birth of homeschools and micro schools. So these ESAs can also be used. And if you haven't been watching the news, you've been missing it, but it's everywhere. The ESA program is fraught with fraud. It's just ripe for fraud. Yes, we think, most people will do the right thing, but unfortunately, many people are using these funds to pay for things like chicken coops, espresso machines, ballet classes, whale watching trips, and people are like, that's impossible. Unfortunately, if you can download a curriculum that says that your child is learning to be a barista, you can buy an espresso machine. You can buy a dog grooming station if you can show, and basically you just download it from ChatGPT or anything like that. And as a teacher, because I think I should mention that along with working with Save Our Schools Arizona, I am a public school teacher. I was a special education teacher. Next year, I'm going to be a reading interventionist. And I can tell you every day, even in Maricopa County, we are in crisis. Our public education system is under attack. It's been underfunded, and we are feeling the pain.
Thank you for that, Raquel. Raquel, as I understand what I've been looking at and seeing some stuff on the news, that there's pretty much a gross misuse of the funds, and there's actually no accountability and no transparency. What are your feelings on that?
Well, my feelings are quite strong on that. Save Our School, that's not by accident. So I'm really glad you asked that question. The zero accountability and zero transparency isn't like, oops, we forgot. Save Our Schools and many other organizations had worked tirelessly to suggest bills, bring bills forth to say, hey, maybe you can just cap it at this, or maybe you just do some minor tweaks where even you have vendors get fingerprinted, because right now a vendor receiving ESA dollars does not have to be fingerprinted. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. We saw a few months back where the Attorney General of Arizona, Chris Mays, found some people that actually work for the Arizona Department of Education that were defrauding the taxpayers in Arizona to the tune of over $500,000, where they created ghost children that didn't exist and got them ESA vouchers and a bunch of services that for children that they had created birth certificates for. So that's still under investigation. Again, that was brought up because we have an amazing attorney general. I think the bank tipped them off also that there was some questionable amounts of money being made by people inside of the Arizona Department of Education. Just last week, we saw again Attorney General Chris Mays going to investigate the Department of Education because we highlighted and spotlighted the misuse of our taxpayer dollars on Legos. You heard it right, Legos. I love Legos. My children love Legos. Legos are fantastic. Legos are educational. But our taxpayer dollars, over $1 million of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars, should not be spent on Legos for kids in affluent zip codes. So it's just infuriating. And I could go on and on about homeschools, micro schools. They can pretty much buy very many things without having to, show what's going on. And I won't even, besides what they're buying, we have to remember that are required to do so many things. Certified teachers, most of them do it, the districts do it, certified teachers, because they want to. Well, the state of Arizona did away with that, but teachers are certified. We are fingerprinted. We are scrutinized. Lesson plans. Micro schools and homeschools, you don't even have to do any of that. Plus, standardized testing. Public schools are scrutinized on what their test results. These people, and I don't mean it in these people as far as they are bad, but the people that are receiving ESA dollars, taxpayer dollars, do not have to show that their child is learning anything. They don't have to test them at all. And so, why are we funding three systems? Why are we funding a public education system, charter, because charter schools are public schools. So people are very confused about charter schools, and that is a topic for another day. But charter schools receive public dollars, they're privately owned, and they do not adhere to the same rules as public schools. They don't have school boards. They don't have public school boards. They don't have to show you their teacher certifications. They don't have to show you their books. Again, charter schools receive public dollars, privately owned, topic for another day. So we have our public schools, we have our charter schools, and we have our private religious schools. Plus now you're funding micro schools and home schools. We can't do it, state of Arizona. The reason that our public schools are under distress is because it's a planned, coordinated attack that's been going on, where funding from our public education has been diverted for decades. And so none of this is, whoops, we broke it. What are we going to do? No, this is all by design. Also, it's not just happening in Arizona. So this push is a national push to privatize our public schools. And Arizona is the forefront. We are the petri dish. We are the guinea pigs for the nation. There's a reason why Betsy DeVos, the American Federation for Children, the Goldwater Institute have poured money into Arizona, poured money into the former Governor Ducey's campaigns both times, because this has been a coordinated attack. And unfortunately, now we have the superintendent of public instruction, Tom Horn, spending millions of dollars, talking up ESA vouchers. So it's almost like you're living in the Twilight Zone when the guy that's supposed to be the champion for public schools is spending $10 million advertising ESA vouchers and telling people to, leave the public education system because it's, falling apart. So it's quite infuriating.
Raquel, what actions can concerned citizens take to support Save Our Schools Arizona and advocate for better public education policies, and especially in the light of the initiatives that are taking place?
That's my favorite question. There's so much that can be done. And so, especially in a place like Nogales, especially in this beautiful area of Santa Cruz County, where we have, people that are very, we have lots of people that make choices and are, let me say this, there's a lot to be done. And especially in Nogales, where people think, what am I going to do in this little town, right? Everybody knows everybody. Politics, I'm not really into it, but politics is into you, Nogales. And so a lot of times you think everything happens in Maricopa County. It doesn't really matter what we do in Nogales. But I'm telling you, I keep referring to the amazing Attorney General Chris Mays, who won her election, a statewide election, by about 260 votes. Came between us and the other person who would have not been protecting our rights. And so it's kind of uncomfortable to start off with, but you can start just from getting information, get informed. Don't listen to the people that are saying, oh, our schools are terrible, take your kids out of school. You don't understand that when you take your kid out of your local school, you're hurting your own community. You're taking the investment out of your property values. And so you can start just by getting the information. Go to sosarizona.org, sosarizona.org, and just start reading about what is going on with education funding. Sometimes people say, I don't have kids, but you live in the community. You live in a community. What would you rather have? An uneducated community or an educated community? As you grow old, as you are young. And so get informed and then start taking little baby steps. Like I said, Save Our Schools Arizona is an amazing organization that has been working for a long time to specialize in the volunteer experience. And so when you volunteer with us, we have got a little safety net under you. You can start just by going to one of our weekly Zoom CAT meetings. What is a CAT meeting? It's a community action team meeting. It's on Zoom. You just join in. We've got community action team coordinators like myself that will tell you what's up in education funding that week. You chat a little bit and you get informed. We also put out a weekly, Education Weekly. You can subscribe to it at SOSArizona2024. And there you can read word for word about what's happening right now in education funding. And it's not just like a boring email. It's got links that you can click and you can go straight to your legislators. Sometimes people will say, well, my legislator already votes the right way. Well, then you need to thank your legislator because your legislator is fighting for you. Call your legislator, even though you know they're voting like you want them to. Say, thank you, legislator, for representing us very well. We also have links to the governor. We have links to people that are in leadership in the Republican majority because they also, the president of the Senate, the speaker of the House, they have power. You should call them. And then we go on from there. So we can get you to be a text banker. You can send texts to people in your area to help candidates in your area. Locally is where a lot of decisions get made. So when people say, oh, I don't vote, you're really throwing away your voice. And so there is so much you can do. You can get kind of overwhelmed, but don't get overwhelmed by the so much. Just do something. Do one thing, whether that be just reading the weekly, donating $10 to your favorite candidate or organization, sending an email, sending a text. Right after this, I'm going to jump on a phone bank. Calling people you think, oh my gosh, that's the worst thing ever. They're going to hang up on me. I just always tell myself, they don't know who you are. They can't see you. You're doing a service. You're bringing them information. And I voice it that way. When I call somebody, I say, my name's Raquel. I'm a teacher. I'm a mom. And I'm taking the time today to call you to let you know what's happening in your community. So much to be done. Connect with somebody, connect with your local Democratic Party, make sure you get involved. Do not stay on the sidelines. This is not the time to stay on the sidelines and say, well, I don't like this little piece of cake, so I'm going to throw it all out. No, eat around the piece that you don't like. We just, at this point, if we don't fight for our schools, we know that the end game is to demolish, to devastate them to the point where they crumble and where everything will be privatized. And that is the dream of, the multi-billionaires that are funding all of this war on public education.
Raquel, another significant topic right now is Project 2025, or what's being called Agenda 47, and has other different names that people are using to misinform the public. But what can you tell us about these Project 2025 or Agenda 47, and how will it impact and its intention to impact the public education system?
Oh, that's such an important question right now. Project 2025, Agenda 47, all of these ways that it's being called is a terrifying manifesto of ideas that now the former president is trying to distance himself from, right? Where they'll keep renaming it. You have to keep your eye on the ball. The Republican Party will continue to rename it, but Project 2025, it's actually put together by the Heritage Foundation, and I highly encourage people to Google Project 2025, Google the Heritage Foundation, and see what they have in store. And so it's not just education that they're planning to devastate, it's everything across the board. And so that's where we see this coming together of so many things that we fight for. As a person that's born and raised on the border in beautiful Nogales, immigration is very close to my heart. So yes, if you read the main, it's a very long project and it's a long read, but if you read just the bullet points, they want to privatize all education. They want to do away with the Department of Education. Our country was founded, our founding fathers, if you go back and look, public education was at the core of our nation, our founding of our nation. Arizona, we have it in our constitution that Arizona has to have a free, quality public education for all. Uh, Good education is the cornerstone of a democracy, of a healthy democracy. So they're trying to devastate our public education system. You start to wonder why mass deportations, nationwide abortion bans. So every right that we have, they're coming for it. And so a lot of things tied together. Sometimes it gets a little sticky when people say, hey, you guys are in education, why are you promoting women's right to choose or reproductive rights? Well, didn't you guys all start telling me that you all were for choice when it's about the schools, but you're not for choice when it's for women's rights, right? You're all about the government staying out of your business, except when it comes to other people's business, who they marry, who they love, where they came from. I mean, we're a nation of immigrants, and to see right now people that are backing Project 2025, Agenda 47, holding up signs that say mass deportation, I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. Once again, I'm saying this country is a country of immigrants. I'm a first generation American. My parents, we all went to public schools. We walked to school. We are still friends with the same people that we were then, lifelong friendships. And, ever since then, they've been trying to destroy that fabric thread by thread by thread by thread. And so, you know, both sides at times use fear, right, to motivate. I don't like it. I don't like emotional manipulation or fear. But that's the reason that I stay with Save Our Schools Arizona. That's the reason that I work a full day as a teacher and then get home at night and start to do some more work on organizing and telling people what's going on, because I know and I understand what the stakes are. And we cannot sit this one out. We cannot sit on the sidelines. We have to each do something. We don't want to wake up the day after the election and say, God, I wish I had just done one more thing. So Save Our Schools Arizona, we are, like I said, we are volunteer coordinators. That's our specialty. And we are working and organizing and, just continuing to march forward no matter what, and it's all ties together. Education, immigration, women's rights, the environment, all of the people that are wanting to see us do away with the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, they're all the same people. And so I don't want to be too much of an alarmist. And that's why instead of wringing my hands and being all scared, I knock doors and I send texts and I make phone calls, because that helps my anxiety that at least I'm doing something. So.
Raquel, also as a teacher, you would probably know a lot more about this than myself, but there's a lot of rhetoric out there that you as a teacher are being told to indoctrinate the students, that in the public system they're teaching them how to become indoctrinated, and you guys are specifically making them either believe in things that the far right or people don't agree with or think that. But I mean, is your superiors actually telling you to teach false narratives and talk about homosexuality, and do you indoctrinate the kids, or is that all just hearsay?
I'm kind of giggling over here. So, obviously, that is what we get accused of, right? That's what we get accused of. That's what the story has been. That is the messaging that has worked for these people. Your schools are failing. They're cesspools. Get your children out of them. They're teaching them wokeness. They're teaching them about social emotional learning. How that's terrible. That should be taught in the home. They're attacking teachers for, wearing rainbow colored socks, and, they want us to post everything that we are teaching. And look, as a teacher, as a public school teacher that has worked from special education to bilingual education, from elementary to middle school and everywhere in between, I can tell you that absolutely under no circumstances are any CRT or any kind of indoctrination happening. In fact, what's been happening and what our is instead of focusing on the real crisis in education, which is the worst student to counselor ratio in the nation, one of the worst, some of the biggest classrooms in the nation, the worst teacher shortage. And I should not say teacher shortage, because I'm going to say teacher retention crisis, because there is no shortage. We have plenty of teachers that are certified to fill every classroom in Arizona, but there's a teacher retention crisis because teachers are professionals. We have college diplomas. We are educated. We've got masters, PhDs. We are professionals, and we are being attacked, and the pay is the worst in the country. And so teachers have had enough. We're tired of being called groomers and indoctrinators. Listen, if we could indoctrinate children, wouldn't we indoctrinate them to get off their cell phone and turn in their homework and be polite? The state of education, you don't understand the amount of massive work that teachers have. We have to turn in lesson plans. We have to put everything to the standards. We are under the microscope. And it's not people love to blame, oh, it's the administrators. The administrators are the one taking all the money. No, listen, everyone in public education, from superintendents to school boards to principals, assistant principals, secretaries, cafeteria, custodians, teachers, paraprofessionals, they're all working 100% plus on 60% of the budget or less, right? So we're doing everything that we can. Arizona schools are very successful. If you look at our test scores, everybody's about academic testing. We are very successful despite the chronic defunding. And again, we have no test results from people taking ESA vouchers. So the fact that don't listen to that rhetoric, that please, and another thing I say as a mom and as a teacher is go to your school. If you think it's that terrible, your kid's school, say, hey, I want to volunteer. I want to help you guys in the lunchroom. Hey, I want to be the mom that comes and makes copies for the teachers. Listen, we're inviting you guys all the time. Come to our classrooms. Come to our schools. Be a volunteer. Join the PTA. Join the PTO. We're not holding you. The doors are open. So, this whole thing of all this stuff happening at schools is completely false narrative. And it's been, disseminated to scare people. And unfortunately, it's worked very well for them. And so we, again, at Save Our Schools Arizona, if you go on, follow us on Facebook, we show you statewide our beautiful public schools, everywhere from Nogales up to the Navajo Nation, and east and west in between. And what an amazing job our public schools do despite 50 years of chronic defunding. So don't believe it. And I'm not going to say that public schools are perfect. It's not a perfect system. I believe, yes, that sometimes the systems fail. But if a public school does something wrong with the money, you can trace back every cent. There is a way to go to a school board if you are having difficulties with somebody at your school. There's a process for that, so for you to move up the ladder to get your grievance heard. If you go to a private school, you lose your rights to IEDEA. Your special education students are not entitled to special education services. They are not entitled to English as a second language. And so, these systems with no transparency, no accountability, getting this money while, we have to show every cent. So yes, go to your school board meetings. If you're worried about what's going on at your school board meetings. We have people like Moms for Liberty, these radical hate groups coming to school board meetings to attack people that are volunteering to do this job that have the best interests of the community. We have people with Moms for Liberty and these radical hate groups running for school board positions so that they can attack from within. So don't listen to the narrative. Either way, get some unbiased information. Don't go to Fox or don't go to MSNBC. Go to NPR, go to something, go to PBS, public broadcasting. You don't have to hear it from me. You don't have to listen to Save Our Schools Arizona. Find out for yourself, but make sure that what you're reading is an unbiased source, because unfortunately in a beautiful small town like Nogales, it's the chisme, right? The gossip of the school, and this did that, and this teacher. Listen, go check it out. They're beautiful schools, and definitely no indoctrination. And I want to say one more thing about, this whole thing of that, because we've had whole departments, counseling departments and social worker departments phased out in Phoenix because they don't want social emotional learning. When did we stop caring about one another? When did we stop wanting our children to learn about empathy and respect and responsibility? And how can that be terrible? So you really have to ask yourself, what about this is making me uncomfortable? And you have to ask yourself some questions deep inside, that maybe make you uncomfortable. But in the end, it's the person's choice to choose, whatever they do with their lives. And so, we should respect that and support our local schools. I have no issue with private schools at all. I have no issue with that. If you want to send your child to a private school, that's great. Just don't use my public taxpayer dollars to pay for it, because I strongly believe in the separation of church and state, and I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to a place that I know that at times advocates for hate, that does not accept kids that have two moms or dads, that, don't let, the kid come in because his hair is too long. So we have to have some introspective look at ourselves and really ask ourselves, like, why are we feeling this way? But, public schools, when did the teacher become the enemy? I have no idea.
Thank you so much for that, Raquel. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. Big thank you to Raquel Mamani for joining us and sharing the incredible efforts of Save Our Schools Arizona, for shedding the light on the ESA Universal Vouchers, and for trying to get people to get out there and participate, because it's very easy for all of us to complain, to listen to the neighbors, to listen to all of that fake news and all of that misinformation that's out there, and not really know, but help spread these outright lies, and I would probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know that maybe perhaps 75% or 80% of all our politicians, our doctors, our lawyers, our current people that we go to for help have attended public schools and have come from public schools, and then maybe have gone on to private schools in the higher education the higher education
The
world.
higher ups.
But what we want people is, please joining us. Please share these podcasts with all your friends. Dilo signing off, saying goodbye again, and thank you, Raquel.
Thank you so much, Dilo. Thank you so much, 520 Democrat Podcast. It's been a privilege.
I'll see you guys next time on the 520 Democrat Podcast.